And welcome to the Alex Urbina radio show. Today we're live in the KHTS studio in downtown Newhall, California. In studio with my lovely co-host, Ellen Tunick. Today's show is all about life coaching and how to open up some possibilities to help us improve our own selves, our own state of mind, our own wellness, how to become more conscious, more aware, and how to evolve along with the world so that our lives are becoming more peaceful, more joyful. We're able to experience those beautiful things that we should be experiencing, right? And I think the conversation you want to have today is all around negativity.
Right.
What is it about negativity that you want to dive into? What part of that?
You know, from the very beginning, you run across people in your life who come from a place of positivity, and then you run along from some people who come from a place of negativity. So my initial question is, how do you become a negative person? Where does that happen? How does that start?
That's a great question. For me, when I think of negativity and why somebody would continue to be negative, it starts somewhere where I think you get some kind of a payoff for being negative.
A perceived payoff or a real payoff?
Everything's perceived for
True.
us, and
That's
it becomes real. So for example, for the very first time, I choose a negative way of looking something, and so I say it out loud. Let's say I'm 5 or 9, and when I do that and I say it that way from that negative spin or that negative perspective, if you're listening to me and you're validating that negativity, or you're giving me some kind of sympathy or some kind of validation, or you're feeling sorry for me, and I'm getting that payoff, I decide in that moment that I get something from that. So I'm going to keep going to that tool. And you can go down that road and keep going to the negative perspective over and over again, not realizing that you're getting some kind of a payoff from it. It's a total unconscious thing that most of us are doing.
So that goes back to negative attention is better than no attention.
Well, it's attention.
Period.
Yeah. So I think at a certain point when you're unconscious, you don't know the difference because attention is attention. So if you're constantly whining and complaining and you're always, making the negative comments, you're always being that the one that's, has to throw your dig in or whatever it is, you're getting some kind of payoff, right? Somebody's either saying, hey, stop talking like that, or we don't need that. Just anybody responding to you is some kind of attention. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah. So you're getting noticed. You're getting recognized.
On some level.
You're getting somebody to say something.
I see you.
Yeah. So much so that it can now, some people have put that little racket into their personality. And so they're known as the one that always has to throw a dig in there, right? They're always
a wisecrack.
A wisecrack. You're that one. That's just part of now your persona.
Oh,
is your personality
and that's
now.
So-and-so being, that's Joe being Joe.
Yeah, and then and Joe will laugh, right, when you say that. There's a chuckle.
But that's a payoff for Joe.
Oh, for sure. Not realizing what prices he's paying in the long run because he chose to go down that road, and that's his racket, and he embraces it. Whether it's unconscious or conscious, that's just what he does.
Well, and it could have developed unconsciously, and he could have become conscious of it and been okay with it because he didn't want it. That person does want to change it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's first talk about what is negativity, right? I look at negativity as it starts with this inner voice that we have, right? We have this little inner voice that's always talking to you. And if you don't know what inner voice I'm talking about, it's the one that just said, what little voice is he talking about? Right? We all have that little voice. It's always chattering to us real silently.
Always.
It's in the back.
Always.
It's in the background, and it's having a conversation with us, right?
Yes.
So it's an inner voice, and a lot of times the negativity comes from the inner voice being an inner critic. It's criticizing. That's good. That's bad. That's right. That's wrong. That shouldn't have happened. Why did that happen?
Judgment.
Is judging all the time. It's that inner critic that we have. If we're not conscious and aware that I'm in control of it and I'm choosing it to be the critic and how far it can go, then unchecked, it's just going to do its thing. It's just going to run its racket. It's going to run amok until I'm depressed, I'm suicidal, and I think the whole world is out to get me, and I've just let that thing run amok to the point where I just now
can't function.
am dysfunctional.
Yeah.
Right? So that's that inner voice. It's an inner critic. It's an inner dialogue that's happening, right? It's like a self-conversation that you're having with this little voice that's right there going, hey, don't trust that person because the last time you trusted somebody, look what happened. Right. And so that little voice has its own dialogue, its own conversations with you.
It's so interesting that it's literally having a dialogue with you, but it's you.
It is. It's you. It's a part of you.
Nobody is sitting inside your brain having this discussion. It's you.
No, it's not the government that has satellites pointed at you and it's going, let's put this programming in there.
Yeah. So it's really a fascinating thing to understand that this you that sits there and talks to you can tell you things that are not good for you.
Correct. And a lot of times, if you're a listener to this show, you've heard me talk a lot about the monkey mind, or the possibility of there's this ego, right? This entity that has decided that it's going to run you. Our ego's job is to protect us, and its job is to keep us safe in life. Like, watch out for that tree; it's falling. Move out of the way. Or, hey, don't turn down that street that looks dangerous, right? That's the job of our ego, is to protect us. However, in our lives, as we're making choices, as we're taking on new tasks or new challenges,
things that scare us,
sometimes when you don't tell the ego, hey, I'm not in a dangerous spot, so go sit in the back corner. When you don't consciously shut it down, it steps in and goes, you're going to take that on? Do you remember the last time you took that on? You were not chosen. So why are you going to do it again? You obviously don't have that talent. And then it just starts going on its thing because it wants to protect me from failing. It wants to protect me from trying something new so that I don't get embarrassed or fail. And it doesn't want me to feel that pain. So it's going to start its negativity.
And that is all based on your own perception of failure.
That's correct. So the ego, when it's unchecked, it's doing its job. It's protecting you from all the things that come along with taking on new tasks, trying new things. It doesn't want you really to ever take any kind of risk
or expose yourself
because there's the possibility that you can now experience the part that's going to cause pain and discomfort.
And again, that perception that pain is bad.
Exactly. And so it's wired in a certain way that it's decided pain is not good for you. We don't want that. And so it starts its conversation with you, and it's right there real silently in the background. It's almost like an app that's running in the background that you don't know, that's just
feeding you.
It's feeding you. And you can't hear it until you get present. You can't hear it until you notice it, and then you keep forcing yourself to notice it more and more and more. The more you notice your inner dialogue, that's the moment that you can actually start to control it, shut it down, quiet it, put it in the corner, all those kinds of powerful tools.
Or literally say, look, I hear you, but I'm doing this.
That's right. So when they talk about taking control of your life, that's that conscious moment that you go, I'm in control. So then you have to decide, then who's me?
Who's me?
Who am I?
Yeah. This I.
Yeah. So until you decide that you're going to decide who you are and that you're going to start to grab the reins of your own horse, or you're going to grab the wheel of your own ship, before you do that, unconsciously, your ego's basically driving you. It's running you. And it has its own rackets. It operates from fear, and it's going to guide you to all the less places where you're going to triumph because it doesn't want to take any risks. And it's going to negatively talk to you out of doing some of those courageous things.
So fear and risk and all of those things that ultimately help us grow and become and evolve, all of those things are guided by this voice and this feeling of negativity. And I mean, how limiting is this, and how our young people, I find, can be very fearful and can come up with all the reasons why they can't. How do we, as humans, evolve and take this negativity and rework it?
It's by teaching each other about this thing called ego and talking about it and pointing it out, so that as people are listening, they're going, oh, I notice I do that. Or having a discussion more about what's really going on behind the scenes, right? Behind the curtains of it's like Oz, right? Once you look behind the curtain, you see the little short guy running this.
Right.
You go,
big Oz.
Oh, wow.
It's not such a big deal after all.
That's right. So once you peek behind the curtain and you see that Oz is the little guy running the machine, you go, hey, little guy, go take a seat in the corner. I'm taking control of this thing. And then you can now jump in there and start running it. But prior to that, prior to peeking behind the curtain, you're now afraid of this big, face with all the and the lights and the smoke.
Feels very powerful.
It does. It does.
Oz was very powerful.
It was, until you realize that Oz isn't real.
Right.
Oz is this figment of imagination, this character, this entity that you've developed, or it's there to protect you, but unchecked, it's really kind of keeping you safe. It doesn't want you to get out there and take risks and persevere and overcome and achieve, because there's a possibility you could get hurt. You could be rejected. You could be embarrassed.
This is so counterproductive to me. Negativity and ego and all these things that limit us. How did we get there? How did we get here when it's a limiting process instead of a growing process?
It is a growing process.
But how, as parents, as grandparents, as, partners and friends, how do you respond to negativity? And the reason this whole negative thing was brought up was I had a friend who said, why don't you talk about how to not set yourself up for failure? And my immediate thought to myself was, well, that's a really negative statement. So how do you respond to people that continuously seem to come from a negative perspective?
Yeah, you just get to point it out from a loving place, a neutral place, where you don't make them bad and wrong because that's the way they see it. That's the first step.
And that feeds into it anyway.
Well, not necessarily. If you're coming from a judgment place, like, why are you so negative? Right? That's gonna now, you're gonna get that resistance, right? You're not gonna be effective. However, if you're neutral about it, like, do you notice that every time you make a statement, it's always about what you can't do rather than what you can do? I was just wondering if you have seen that or not, or if you noticed it.
Are you aware of that?
Yeah, but I want you to listen to my tone. It's more of a it's a neutral thing. It's like, hey, I've been there before. I was down that road. I know what that looks like, and sometimes I still catch myself like that. It's just part of the growth process. So the first thing is, you can't make them bad and wrong, because that's how they are wired. It's just It's just the way it's just the place that they're at in their journey. So that's number one. And then it's just to point it out, because they probably can't see it. You can't change what you can't see. So if you're pointing it out in a loving way, in a neutral way, you can go, oh wow, I never realized that's how I speak. That's how I think.
Okay, so I thought I was doing that to this person. So I responded and said, are you aware, that it's kind of coming from a negative perspective, how can we spin that and make, and the response was, well, I'll let you do that, Miss Positive Pants. And it was like, oh, okay. It's just, I didn't know what to do with it. It just landed, and I went, oh.
Yeah. So when that person tossed it back in your lap, you didn't grab it.
No.
So what would it look like if you would have grabbed it and you went, oh, okay. So then what I'll do is I'll spin it into, and then give her the positive version, and not take it as a dig, not take it as her taking a shot at you.
Not taking it personally.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you could have took it as a compliment.
Well, I kind of did, you know.
Okay.
You know, people used to call people Pollyanna. It's the same theory. You know, and I would prefer to be known as someone who comes from a more positive perspective.
But what's funny is that as she's giving you that response, that's great feedback of how she was interpreting you when you were giving her that different way to look at it.
Yeah.
So when I said, you know, you gotta point it out to them in a loving, neutral way, you were probably 70% there, but not
50 maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So the other 50 wasn't landing for her.
Wasn't landing
because
for her.
she came back with, well, then why don't you do it? You know, Miss Positive Pants, right?
Yeah.
There was that little. So it gets now an opportunity for you to look at it and go, all right, how could I have said that in a more caring, neutral, negative, or neutral way that doesn't make her feel bad and wrong because that's how she asked it.
Right.
So let's say you were the person asking me, right? Because I asked you for the opinion, and you go, how about you talk about this? And then you go, oh, that's a good one. And then as you're pretending you're writing it down, you're saying it out loud, but you're just putting the positive spin on it. So remind me what the question was again?
The question, oh gosh. The question was, I forgot. It was about, how do you not set yourself up for failure?
Oh, that's a great one, Ellen. Let me write that down. How to set yourself up to win. Cool. We're going to talk about that one. So sometimes it's just recorrecting them through your perspective, right in front of them, maybe even just modeling it.
Yes.
Without saying, "Hey, are you open to the possibility that we could put a positive spin on that?" Because right there, you could easily be interpreted like you're throwing it back in her face.
Yeah.
But you can teach people.
I can reframe it.
You can reframe it, teach them, just subtly, right in front of their face.
And it doesn't have to be anything about them. It has to be about how I want to interpret that.
Perfect.
Right?
So you got to remember that you can teach people just by course correcting in front of them without putting it back onto them. Now, if you had a relationship with her in a certain way that she knew you're on her team, wanted her to win, doesn't take things personal, then you probably could have said that to her, and she's like, "Oh, that's a great way to put it." But based on how
I responded,
how she responded to you was feedback to you that,
didn't do that.
Yeah, you pressed the button somewhere in there.
Somewhere along the line.
But there's a subtle way to do it, and you just take it, you spin it, and then you say it out loud, so that she goes, so that when you say it out loud, like, let's figure out how to create a win-win, and then she thinks to herself, "Oh, that's a better way."
Yeah.
You just planted that seed that, hey, there's a more positive way to actually say it.
So just modeling it is enough.
Modeling is the best way, actually, because people look at you, watch how you're doing it, and then they have to look at themselves and go, "Do I do it like that?" And then they
start to question.
Yeah, but they're questioning it.
Not me telling.
You're not telling them. The best way to get somebody to have breakthroughs is to figure out how to get them to decide it for themselves.
Because it's about them anyway.
That's right. But it's like if I correct you or if I give you advice, it's my opinion.
Right.
But if I can ask
somebody telling me one more time how to do something.
But if I ask you questions that leads you down that road, and then you come to your own conclusion, the same thing that I want to tell you,
then I pound my chest with my epiphany.
That's right. You go, "Oh my God, it's that easy?" And you go, "Yeah."
And that keeps you motivated to find more of those epiphanies.
That's right. So this is the best way to really parent your kids, is when they start to become teenagers or preteens. They start realizing they have their own voice. They can think for themselves. By you asking open-ended questions or planting seeds and then them coming up with their own ideas, their own answers, their own solutions on their own, that's when you really empower your kids to think for themselves. But what a lot of us parents do is, since they were little, we've just become their managers, right? We're the person who tells them what to do, and we don't ever shift that role when they're 9, 10, 13. So there we are, they're 15 or 16, and we're still trying to tell them what we think they should do, or we're still giving them their advice. And they're past that stage. That stage worked in the years that they're looking up to you going, hey, buddy,
I need you.
tell me what I need to do here.
Yeah.
But when they start to realize that they can think for themselves, choose for themselves, you have to learn how to shift your parenting style into being more of a mentor, more a coaching style, more asking open-ended questions, or even just saying, what are you going to do? How are you going to handle this one?
Yeah.
Just that question alone, they have to think and go, well, I don't know.
Well, you know what I would love to have maybe in the next part of the show is how do we help our young people, our teens, our adolescents when they don't have parents that get that, and they end up suffering with anxiety and depression because it manifests itself. So I would love to have a discussion on how our young people can learn how to handle all
I'll tell you what, we'll do that right after the break. We're going to take a short break and come back. We'll discuss that topic and then some right here on the Alex Urbina Radio Show on your hometown station, KHTS.
Have invaded our homes, our businesses, and most importantly, our sleep. If you have suspicious bites that appear nightly or have a bug that you need ID'd, your best option is to make one call to All Pro. We offer a 100% guarantee that your bedbug issues will be solved with heat in one treatment. No need to tent or spray your house with chemicals. Heat is all you need. Call 661-298-2200 or text me a bug picture to 661-645-0540. It's time to sleep tight again, STV.
The Art Gallery of Santa Clarita Artists Association, located in downtown Newhall on 6th Street between Railroad and Main, features local members' original artwork with changing exhibits every 2 months. Purchase affordable art for your home or as gifts. Open Friday through Sunday or by appointment. Artists wishing to join the SCAA can visit santaclaritaartist.org, come to our free monthly meetings at Barnes & Noble, or stop by the gallery. For upcoming shows, check us out at santaclaritaartist.org. We make visual art visible.
We all know sometimes people lose their way. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, the Way Out Recovery SCV may have the answers you've been waiting for. The Way Out is the premier intensive outpatient treatment center serving Santa Clarita. Asking for help is the first step. Call The Way Out today, 661-296-4444. That's 296-4444 for a private free assessment. The Way Out is an accredited, affordable outpatient program that accepts most insurance. Call us at 661-296-4444 or check us out online at thewayoutrrecoveryscv.com. Quit battling with yourself. Ask The Way Out for help today.
98.1 FM and AM 1220.
And welcome back to the Alex Urbina Radio Show. I'm your host, hanging out with my co-host, Ellen Tunick. Today we're talking about negativity and how does it affect us? Where does it come from? How do we control it? And then before we went on a break, you had a question you wanted to shoot at me.
Yes. I wanted to talk about, it's wonderful if you have parents that understand the concept of being present and understanding the transitional phases of young people into adolescence. But there are plenty of parents that, are not in that place. And based on new statistics, that 7 out of 10 adolescents suffer from anxiety and depression. That's a huge number, and I was stunned by it, saddened, makes me really want to cry. It shouldn't be like that. So what is the process to help our young people and retool themselves instead if parents aren't in that place, so that they either don't get to that anxiety and depressive state, or they can help themselves climb out of it.
I think that as more and more of us become more aware and awakened and more conscious and more compassionate for the kids in our community, the kids in our neighborhood, the children in our village, right, in our families, our nieces, nephews, grandkids. Sometimes just by me deciding that I have the ability to help some of them, if I can help 3 or 4 of them in my lifetime, I've made a difference. So sometimes it might be that you look over and you see your younger cousin or your nephew that's struggling, and you invite him to plug into your family. And while he's there, you're taking a walk, or you're asking him to take the trash out with you, and you're opening up dialogue. You're getting him to share. You never know what kind of a difference you can make with him, because maybe his dad doesn't do that, or his mom would never really find the importance of having that kind of conversation with him. So I really believe that it's going to be of those of us that are conscious and aware that we're going to have to reach out around us and look out for each other and invite each other into those conversations with more and more younger people, because maybe their mom or dad hasn't gotten that awakening yet, or they're still struggling with their own insecurities and their own dysfunctions that they can't even get themselves out of that to see that they're projecting it onto their kids, or that their kids are suffering. So it's going to take the rest of society to decide that I can make a difference, that now that I've figured out how to get myself down that road and I'm healing and I'm learning some things, who can I teach this to? What young person can I sit down with and just have a good 45-minute deep, meaningful conversation with him or her, where I'm creating a space for them to open up and share and release and let go of some of that stuff. And then before I let them go, I can remind them that it's not their fault, or that they don't, or say thank you for sharing that with me. You made a difference with me. Or as simple as just as you're walking by, you're letting them know that they're seen. Hey, good morning. It's good to see you. And then you see their face light up. What? You talking to me? Yeah, it's good to see you, buddy. You know what I mean? Just something as simple as that. And most of us unconsciously aren't choosing to step into that role because we're just so committed to all the other things that we have on our plates.
But so many of these, so many of our adolescents and young teens and young adults, they're very good at hiding it. They're very good at
masters
pretending.
They're masters at
it. So it'd be wonderful if, you could walk by somebody and go, oh, you've got the star on your head. Let's go sit down. But some of them operate really well, and you would never know.
Correct. If you're not in tune with them.
Got it.
If you're really present and you bring your wall down and you're allowing yourself to be vulnerable, you can spot the game that they're playing. You can spot that the smiles and the laughter is not authentic. You can, if you're really paying attention, you can walk in a room and see who are the ones in pain, who are the ones that are really hurting, and you can tell the ones that are projecting a certain way to mask or numb or hide that from themselves.
Well, the numbing.
Yeah, and then when you get really in tune with your own energy, when you walk into a room, you're just actually drawn to that person. It's almost like, I don't know why I'm here. You're here. I'm here. And
we're here for a reason.
Yeah, and as you start a dialogue and you start being interested in them and you start being inquisitive, the more you ask those questions, based on their answers, they're letting you know. Even though they're smiling and laughing, based on their answers aren't lying. They're letting you know in code that they're struggling with something.
And it's up to us to interpret.
Yeah,
if
you're that aware and that's what you're committed to, which is to make a difference or help people around you, then it's just like your antennas will pick up on it. But most of us are not. Most of us are unaware. We're focused on what I need to get done today. What do I have to do to get whatever I need to get done and completed today for me and my family
And when did that become more important?
It became more important when we started operating from fear
Okay.
and needing more and chasing things and material stuff and the having rather than the being. I honestly don't know if we've ever been there.
Probably not.
I don't know if we've ever
I'm
been
just
there.
being aware of it.
Yeah, no, we're aware of it now.
Yeah.
We're talking about it. But I believe that our journey in life is that we're born with not remembering how truly magnificent we really are. And our journey in life, in my 90 years, 80 years, 70 years, however long I'm going to live, my journey and my purpose is to wake myself up to the point of remembering how truly magnificent I am. So it's almost like we were born forgetting how truly extraordinary we are.
We have to be reminded along the way.
Well, that'd be great if somebody does remind us. If we don't, it's still your job to wake up and discover that for yourself.
So if you...
Because to me, that's true enlightenment, is when you, on your own accord, start to wake up and wake yourself up and decide that you are this magnificent, powerful, loving, creative gift to the world, and I'm going to own that and contribute it. To me, that's living the dream
and
for
I
me.
can reframe coming from a negative place to coming from a positive place. That takes a lot of work. You know?
Well, everything does. Everything
Yeah.
that's worth something takes a lot of work, a lot of effort.
You know, again, it brings in the limiting beliefs. It's, you know, if we were never given an opportunity as a young person to develop ourselves and feel good about our accomplishments, then we operate from fear of not doing it right or not being right, or and so we come from that negative space.
Yes, and on top of that, we can also be taught by our parents or society and validated for our accomplishments that has us be addicted to accomplishing. So then we go on the rest of our life accomplishing things to validate ourselves. And then the minute that we can't accomplish what we're used to accomplishing, then our whole self-esteem crashes. So you got to be careful with that too, because you can be addicted to always having the win, always, being the champion, always creating that successful result. This is how we have celebrities that are killing themselves. This is how we have suicides out. Because they're so used to being on top that they are chasing the win, they're chasing the result, they're chasing the accomplishment. That God forbid that one day they realize that they can't create that anymore. What happens to their self-worth?
They lose it completely.
Yeah, because their self-worth is attached to the result. Rather than, I'm not my results. I'm a beautiful, creative, authentic, loving, compassionate human being that is chasing a purpose or out there chasing a dream, or I'm doing what I'm doing and having what I'm having, but none of that defines who I am.
Does
that make sense?
It's huge, and yeah, it makes complete sense. But I would say a majority of people don't operate like that.
That's right, because we're unconscious, we're unaware. In our unawareness and our unconsciousness,
we haven't separated.
Well, in our unawareness and unconsciousness, we're looking at society and marketing and commercials and TV and everything that's being bombarded to us when we're young is, I gotta win, I gotta accomplish, I gotta achieve. Now, I am not the one here telling you that you shouldn't not have goals and dreams,
right?
Because you'll have those people who go, oh, so you're saying we shouldn't have that?
One thing
no.
doesn't have anything to
That's
do
right.
with the other.
That's right. All I'm saying is that do not put your self-worth and who you are attached to your goals or winning or achieving or accomplishing, because if you do, you're going to create a habit now. And then when you're 60 or 70 years old and you're now retired, you're going to walk around and go, oh, I don't have anything to do and you're going to now get into a funk and depressed because you're not in the game winning anymore and achieving results.
Lost all self-worth.
Yeah, because your self-worth was attached to what you were accomplishing
versus who you are.
Yeah, just a plain simple fact that you're an incredible human being that's unique with all these internal amazing gifts that helped you create and cause those results. That's what's magnificent about you, not the result itself. It's this incredible human being that you are, that you had to dig down deep and generate all those inner qualities to create the result. That's what's special about you. But we make it about the result, and having that result is a symbol of validating how amazing I am.
Well, it's a big job to get out there and mentor and help people understand the difference between who they are and what they do.
If you say so.
Oh, it's not. We can do it. We can absolutely do that.
I love when you set softballs
I
up
know,
for me to
I set you up so well. You knock them out of the park every time.
Well, that's my job is to notice when you're throwing you're throwing out statements that aren't necessarily real, and they're negative.
Yes, they are.
That was a negative statement.
Yes, it was.
When you say, "Oh my God, this is going to be so hard."
It's so overwhelming.
Oh, this is going to be a difficult thing, or this. If you're saying as it's a fact, well, you're going to be right. It is going to be hard and difficult.
If I choose to.
Yeah, but it starts with you saying your words are important.
Yes.
So if you're saying them, you've already convinced yourself that it's going to be difficult. Now, if you started a different conversation in your head, your inner dialogue, and said, you know what, this can be easy if I don't look at the big picture and just look at where I can make a difference. If I can just make a difference with my neighbor, if I can just make a difference with my nephew or my niece, or if I can start small, and then it's not a big, daunting, difficult task. It's just something that I could take a bite out of.
And, when you say task, I don't want it to be a task. I want it to be...
It could be your commitment.
Yeah.
It could be what you're up
commitment.
to.
I want it to just come from my heart. I want it to just be. I want it to just happen.
Yeah. So earlier when we started the show, I talked a little bit about and teased that we're going to try to figure out where does negativity come from, right? We already talked about that, coming from our inner voice, our inner critic, the inner dialogue of self-conversation that just goes south when ego takes over, right? That's how negativity starts and where it comes from. Then how does it affect us? How it affects us is that it affects our state. If we're constantly letting that inner dialogue be negative, then we're acting as though that negativity is real. So then we're never really hopeful. We lose hope when negativity is rampant. And when hope is gone, then we just kind of put our head down and we kind of become defeated. So negativity, self-negative talk can really chip away at hope. And when hope is gone, then we just kind of give up. We reside, right? And then the last question was, how do we control it? The way that you control it first is being aware of the negative self-talk. You have to be hyper aware of keep catching yourself every time you have a negative thought, or catch your own self-regulate when you say something out loud verbally that's negative. If you can have somebody that's on your team to point it out too, like the way I pointed it out, that's a benefit. That's a bonus.
Absolutely.
But the trick is that how do I keep catching myself every time I'm negative? So it's this real deep inward look and self-awareness of catching yourself more and more often every day when you're negative. The more you're aware of it, the more you start to realize that you can control it. When you're not aware of it and you live in the illusion that it's not affecting you, and it just becomes your racket and you're getting payoffs from it and you're unconsciously, it's just your thing, it's hard to see it. And even if people point it out, you justify it with, yeah, whatever.
Works for me.
Yeah, it's working for you. As long as it's working for you and
you're not gonna change
it's
anything.
satisfying your ego, because that's what your ego wants, and you're not paying huge prices for it, you're just going to keep going down that path.
It's kind of like people don't want to change until the pain gets great enough.
There has to be something big enough for a lot of people to want to change. You're not going to change something that you think is perfectly going,
or
great.
Your perception is that it's great.
Yeah.
It might not be the person next to you's perception, but it's yours.
Correct. However, if you're paying a huge price, like 4 divorces, kids that don't talk to you anymore, you're now alone, you're suffering now. Now, sometimes in those moments, we stop and go, what is it about me? Maybe it was my negativity that really just people couldn't handle it.
It pushed people away.
Yeah. So you having that aha moment in your 70s, I mean, good for
Hey.
good for you.
Good for you.
However, had you have had it when you were 14,
That's what
15
I'm saying.
years old.
That's what I'm saying.
You know, when you can go, man, maybe me being stubborn is not
In
going to
that
help me in the long
very
run.
tough part of your
That's
life.
why I do what I do, is because my awakening, my conscious awareness of the very first time I realized how arrogant and how stubborn I was at 23, that awareness was like, man, that's not going to get me anywhere that I really want to be. It's not going to help me create this beautiful life that I deserve. So why don't I just be honest about it now, learn how to deal with it now, and then course correct it. So that having that aha moment but 23 was great. But imagine if I would have had this aha moment at 13 or 14,
Wow.
which helped me create this transformational training for teenagers. It was coming out of that epiphany. And then there's some people that they start their journey at 40 or 50, and they're like, man, you started at 23?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, but you know what's even cooler than that? I help people have that awareness at 12, 13, 14. And now with the tween trainings, I'm helping 7, 8-year-olds start to look at themselves and be self-reflective and questioning their negative thoughts and those kinds of things. So we're getting there. However,
exciting.
there's only a handful of us that in this type of work with teens across the world, maybe if a dozen of us that are out there doing that work. So it's just more about getting more people on your team, getting more people to see the value of waking us up when we're younger so that we can look at ourselves.
God, how valuable that
Because the worst is having a parent go, look to their 17-year-old son and go, how's that make you feel? And they go, I don't know.
Oh, no.
Well, do you know anything about yourself? Well, not really. You know what I mean? But what happens if you expose them to checking in with themselves,
And being able to actually have a conversation about themselves.
articulating what they're
Yeah.
actually feeling. You know what, Mom, I'm feeling sad right now.
Yeah.
Or I'm really angry.
Or I'm scared to death.
Or I'm scared. Just to get your kids
So
to even think that
nervous.
is profound. But if your kids are 40, 50 years old and they still don't want to look at that, they're suffering and paying prices because they just either haven't been taught or haven't learned how to be honest enough to share that out
exposure to
loud.
it.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to take it to a whole nother level, or we'll just wrap it up, right?
You bet.
Yeah, stay tuned for more of the Alex Urbina radio show right here in your hometown station, KHTS.
Stone Oven, the healthy alternative. You've never tasted a sandwich like this before. Gourmet bread cooked before your eyes. Stone Oven at the food court at Valencia Town Center.
Save at the best Santa Clarita restaurants. Restaurant Row, where everything is half price. Click on hometownstation.com and discover incredible savings. Online or at our radio station, everyone saves with Restaurant Row. Check it out at hometownstation.com. Restaurant Row, where everything is half price.
At Advanced Audiology, we know how important hearing is to you, your loved ones, your work success, your safety, and your ability to stay in the game. Most people won't admit hearing loss to themselves or others. We make it easy for you. Today's digital hearing aids come in a variety of styles, including invisible. All feature-rich, providing unparalleled hearing quality, wearing comfort, and automation that simplifies your life. Don't be fooled by our imitators. There's only one Advanced Audiology with the purple sign, next to AAA on Valencia Boulevard.
Hometown, your hometown station.
And welcome back to the Alex Urbina radio show. Today we've been talking about negativity, and we kind of went all over the map with this one. We went a little deep, too.
We did.
yeah,
we went deep. It covers a
about
lot of ground.
10 or 20 meters down, and then came back. And that's what you can expect from this show is that, we're going to talk about whatever's coming up for both you and I, just opening up a dialogue of we're just diving in and exploring, opening up new possibilities for you, I, and whoever's listening to question some things and challenge some of the limitations that get in our way, or even some of the old conditioning, behavior patterns, habits that we just got accustomed to, and they're just not serving us anymore.
One of my greatest joys is hearing old things differently.
What about books? Do you have a book that you can reread over and over at different times in your life, and you read something brand new, or you have a new aha moment because of it?
Or it's like watching a movie. Say, oh, I didn't even remember that part.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because, let's take a book, for example. If you're reading a book in your 20s, right, 22 years old, you're reading this book, you're having all these aha moments. You're like, oh, that was an amazing book. You put it on your shelf. In your 30s, when you open it up and you reread it again, your context has shifted.
Different relevances.
You've grown. You've redefined different meanings. Words, certain words you got clarity on, the distinctions. They're not overlapping each other. So you're a different human being reading that book at a different time in your life. So you're going, oh my God, and you're like having new golden nuggets and ahas coming out of that book because you're not the same person. So you got to kind of look at that as the possibility that I'm not the same human being I am today. And as, what's amazing is a lot of times we're afraid of making some of those mistakes that we've made a few years back. And a lot of times I'll have my clients, they'll tell me, I'm a little hesitant to go back into this scenario. And I have to remind them, you're not the same person though. You're not that same person that you were 2 years ago. Like you've come a long way. You're more aware, you're sharper because of that experience and because of us talking about it and then you learning. I'm guaranteeing you that when you go back in there, you're not going to make those same mistakes. You might make different mistakes,
right,
but not the same ones that your fear has you anchored down that's going to stop you from going back into some kind of a scenario like that again.
Yeah, you isolate. You get, you shut down.
Yeah.
Because your fear. I mean, we have this fear of the unknown. And again, it ties to it shouldn't be a negative. Fear should not be a negative.
What would it look like if you embraced your fear?
Exactly.
And brought it with you?
Yeah, it said, come on, let's do it.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If I look at some of the most challenging things that I've ever done, one of them being on my 30th birthday, I did a skydive. And
I'm so happy for you.
I had, yeah, see, exactly. And I chose to be afraid, feel the fear, and bring it with me anyways.
Yeah, hop on board.
And what an amazing experience, because what it did was it transcended my fears of what I thought from the fear that was going to happen never even came to, tuition. But it's and that's where the ego goes, buddy. I'm trying to protect you and save your life. Why would you jump out of a perfectly good airplane when you don't have to? So Mary, gotta remember, your ego's there. That's his job. Is doing his job is to keep you safe and keep you alive. So I had to say, I appreciate you,
right.
Bringing that fear upon me. However, I'm making a conscious choice to do this because I've done my homework. I've set myself up, and I trust that, in this, there's going to be a bigger breakthrough. Like, I'm not going to jump out of a perfectly good airplane just because. I obviously see value in it.
You set yourself up for success.
Yeah, exactly.
That ties into spinning that.
And the breakthroughs of me overcoming the fear or grabbing the fear, embracing it, and bringing it with me transcended into all the other things after that for the rest of my life. So now if I have an experience of having the fear being so overwhelming, or looking like it's so bigger than me, and then me wrapping my arms around it and then dragging it with me and doing it anyways, was one of the biggest breakthroughs I've ever had. Imagine if we're teaching our kids how to embrace your fear, right? We're talking about inner fears, not like jumping off a 10-foot building where you're going to kill yourself. I'm talking about the internal fears of taking on a new task, going in for a job interview, meeting a new friend. We're talking about those kinds of fears. What would it look like if we taught our kids how to embrace that fear, dance with it, and then put it up over your shoulder and carry it with you into whatever task you're going to take on, because you see the value being bigger on the other end than having your fear one more time talk you out of any kind of challenge.
Yeah. What would it be like? Amazing. I mean, our children, who can embrace this will become even more amazing human beings than they ever thought possible.
Yeah, more amazing because they'll be able to see their own amazingness at another level.
Telling them about them seeing it for themselves.
Well, we can tell them and remind them, but it doesn't matter what we say.
Correct.
What matters is as they're interpreting it, they're going, maybe I am that amazing guy, that extraordinary champion that this person believes me to be. One of my greatest gifts in my lifetime was having a coach or a mentor who believed in me before I believed in myself.
Well, it always kind of starts that way
Oh my God. I mean, for me it did. I don't know
Yeah.
anyone else, but for me it was like, you see me like that? I want to hang around you more often, because if
Yeah.
you can keep seeing greater versions of myself, I want to see myself through your eyes. So it's a matter of getting me excited, because I want to keep having that vision of me, because I couldn't figure out how to, obviously I couldn't figure out how to create it on my own from my own insecurities and my own fears and my own past. But to have you see me like that and then speak to it, it did something for me.
It said
It
can happen.
It lit a fire inside of me, and then I challenged myself to go, well, if you see that, I want to see if I can prove that to myself, to see if what you're seeing is correct.
Yeah.
And every time I would take those shots and I would hit it, I'd look over, and my coach, my mentor is a woman. She used to look at me and she'd just nod, like, and she didn't have to say anything. It was just like,
She didn't need to.
no,
huh?
it was just look at it. She was like, it was almost like, see, I
Yeah,
told you.
see?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing feeling. So that's the gift that I've decided gets to be the gift that I get to give back to other youth that are open to it. Because you got to be open. You totally got to be open to this type of work. Because if you're not going to hear it.
But kids don't even know what being open is.
No, they don't. And so as being a teen expert, working with teens for over 25 years, I've come to the conclusion that the newer teens, the ones that are coming up the ranks, as well as some of the millennials, it's kind of a little bit more of the generation Z that's coming up. They're becoming more know-it-alls and experts already in their life at 7, 9, 13, 14 years old. That know-it-allism is stopping them from being in the discovery process.
Well, when you can spend hours reading the entire internet,
Well,
you know everything.
Well, they're intelligent. Don't get me wrong. They're
Right.
way more intelligent than probably you and I are.
Absolutely.
But intelligence doesn't mean that you're going to master your life.
Right.
Wisdom is what's going to help you master your life. And you can't discover wisdom from being a know-it-all. Wisdom comes from you being the discovery master. You got to learn how to be in constant discovery of yourself and knowing yourself more. What a beautiful topic. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
Always a pleasure every Friday, and I'm so grateful for you and the show.
Thank you.
But that's all the time we have. The good news is we're here live every Friday right here at noon on your hometown station, KHTS.